Yo, yo, yo. To the latest episode of Amazing Reviews. Tonight's going to be a little different episode. We're missing the leader of the pack, the guy who usually runs the show, but we do have the man, the myth, the legend, Calbert. What's up, Calbert?
What's going on, everybody?
So, first and foremost, what'd you think of this episode?
I like this episode. I like this episode a lot. It's my highest rated show of the season so far.
It's funny you say that. I was just gonna ask you, or I was gonna say, I literally thought this was the best episode of the season. I thought this stole the entire season.
Right. Yeah. Really, really good.
I thought the editing was brilliant. I thought the roadblock, everything about it. It was really well done episode.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. Get into it real quick. So we let off with them having to use an app. The what was this? I think it was an Amazon app. What was the app? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's an Amazon app to get from Sweden to Ireland.
So I think it's safe to say none of these four teams will be actors when this is all said and done, because
no.
I don't think they did a great job. In this little portion of the episode in the beginning. All right, so basically they had to book their flight, book their hotel, which we never really got to see any of that, and then they had to drive to a theater to find their clue. And we let off with a roadblock, right? And this roadblock kind of stole the entire episode, because it basically lasted the whole episode. One team member had to perform 30 seconds of an Irish step dance routine from Riverdance in order to receive their next clue. Calbert, where do we even begin? How long did this last?
It was at least 45 minutes. So they both had to swim, which I thought was interesting. They had to swim to get their clue to find out.
Right.
Riverdance.
You're right. I missed that part. They had to drive to 40 foot and swim in the Irish Sea, which was freezing cold.
I thought that was interesting, because I was like, well, why do they both have to swim? It's just a clue. Like, they should.
Well, it also it screwed Steve and Annalee right off.
Absolutely, because Steve almost drowned.
Yeah,
it got the attention of the lifeguard.
Steve got the drowning edit.
Yes, yeah, but yeah, that Riverdance was hard. That was a lot of fun to watch. I'm glad I was watching that going, I am so screwed if I had to do that. But every teacher there was really, really good.
So, okay, there's so much to talk about here. So, yeah, the teachers were great. Sorry for the guy who wasn't picked, the last teacher who was still standing there. But, but it was obvious from the get-go. People, if you knew the four people that were going to perform this roadblock, and I told you two of them were going to struggle, it was so obvious which two of them were going to struggle.
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
Corey and was it Greg or John? I'm not sure which one.
I think it was Greg. I think it was Greg. I believe it was Greg.
Okay, so Corey and Greg killed it. Especially Greg. I mean, Greg killed it.
First time. Here you go. I got it.
Oh man! But Corey
actually it only took him 2 times, but still, like, it was.
I think he did it on the second time.
Yeah, the second time he got it right away. I was like, "Holy crap!"
Corey, I think it took Corey. I'm not sure how many times. I think 4 or 5.
Yeah, 5. Yeah, but it's just the turn. It's the turn got everybody.
The turn at the end. At the end. They got Steve about 17 times.
Yeah, and we had Joel and Garrett. Garrett did it like 7 at least. I stopped counting after that.
Yeah, so. but here's the thing. I know it's just me and you tonight. No hurls. Unfortunately, we're missing hurls. But we always ask this question. Do you think you could have done this? Because for me, this would have been really hard to do. No. Like, really hard.
Yeah, no. I have 2 left feet. I have 2 left feet to begin with, and I don't care how many times they would have went through with me. I wouldn't be able to do this. really, really hard.
Yeah, I think I would have been in the same boat, Steve, and as was it Garrett?
Garrett. Yep.
Yeah, I would have been in the same boat as both of them, without a doubt. The three of us would have been struggling.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I don't. This is like we always talk like this up. All right, stick driving a stick. That's hard. That's hard as well. But
Right.
I cannot dance.
No, I got 2
I
left
can't
feet.
dance.
Nope.
Yeah,
Can't.
I
Can't.
can't dance.
Yep. Can't sing. Can't
And
dance.
my self-esteem would have been, yeah, I can't sing either. My
Right.
self-esteem would have been so low.
Right.
And every time, well, when the music goes on and I'm doing it, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I'm not gonna. There's no way I'm gonna be able to do this.
Right. Right.
So for me, that was, I mean, that would have been nearly impossible. Maybe if I saw Steve there, I think to myself, okay, I could beat Steve out.
Well, and that's the thing.
But
Like even the coaches yelling out the steps to me wouldn't have helped because
oh my
I would have
God,
been
tell
in
me
my
you did not have that stuck in your head though.
yeah. Well, true.
1 and 2 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 4 and
Right.
oh my gosh.
Right.
Yeah, watching Steve do it so many times. I had the song stuck in my head all day. Couldn't get it out of my head.
Right. Right.
But at the end of the day, credit, he did beat Garrett out.
Did.
Garrett. And then I give Garrett credit for finishing it because had he not finished it, I mean, I don't want to give away the end of the episode yet, but had he not done it when he did it, I don't know if they would have been able to catch up. So both of them, I give both of them credit for finishing it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was tough, and that was only the prelude to what we were going to see later. But you're right. I mean, that's a heck of a way to open it up.
Yeah, but this was so after they finished the river dance, which let's not gloss over Corey almost getting. Do you think he got his instructor's phone number
I believe so.
off
Yeah.
screen?
I think so.
Yeah.
Not and the fact that he almost ate it on the very first attempt.
Oh man, that was great.
I thought he twisted his ankle. I was like, "Oh, you twisted your ankle. That's going to be fun for you to try and dance on later."
Yeah. When he did that, I thought he rolled his ankle and that was it.
Yep.
But Corey, like, credit because this guy, him and John can both do it. But they put on this phony smile. Like they know how to put on an act like Steve and Garrett couldn't do. Like I think it makes a difference when you can put on that like that phony face and that smile and they know how to be on the show. Like I personally couldn't do something like that.
Right. I think it was interesting too because that seemed to motivate Rob and Corey to go like, "Hey, we could actually win this. Like, let's give it a shot." Like I think that was maybe a little bit of juice or energy that they needed to kind of finish it.
Yeah. Corey and Rob were the first ones out of there, right?
Second one's out. Greg and John were one. The first one's out. Greg and John were one, and then Corey and Rob were second out.
Okay, right. So Greg did it in the second turn. Corey and Rob. Okay, but Corey and Rob. All right. So before we any other thoughts on the or any other comments on the dance? I mean, this thing dominated the episode. Like we might be glossing over something here.
I give credit to the I'm going to say it was the director.
Yes,
He was like, "You've got it." Like,
this guy was so good that the whole like, all right, when somebody won, like, all right, we know like the trick part, like, oh, I'm sorry to tell you, but you passed. Like that's been done before. But this guy genuinely seemed happy when somebody completed the task. Like he was hugging and like I thought he was the best clue giver of the season.
Yeah. I agree.
So good. He was. I mean, he was a good-looking guy. We'll forget about that. But
Sure.
he was lively. He really did a great job in his role. Really a great job.
Right.
You felt like Garrett finally completed it. He really felt like this guy really cared. You know, I thought he did a great job too. That's a good point. All right, so after the dance, teams had to drive to Croak Park. Croak, is that how you pronounce it? I think Croak Park,
Hmm.
in order to find their next clue. Um, Second roadblock, member who did not perform the 6 total roadblocks. So this is why Steve had to do it again, correct?
Correct, because um, once you reach 6, that was pretty much it. The other person had to do it, which is why each team is telling us like, oh, I did it 6 times, and my partner did
Right.
it 4 times. That means they have to do it. So why they continue to say it.
So, but there were 2 teams that had options, right? John had the option, right? They they were not one of them had to do it, right? I think they were able to choose.
Yeah,
Pretty
they
sure they
were.
were able to choose.
Yep.
And then, all right, we know Steve had to do it. And then I think Garrett and worse with these names now. Garrett and they call each other by last names. So did you notice that?
Yeah, Garrett and Joel. Yeah,
Garrett and Joel. They only
yeah,
refer to each other as last names.
yeah,
I think they got to choose too, right?
yeah. They did. Yeah. So
So Steve and Anna Lee, and then was did Corey did they get to choose or no?
Corey did it because Rob had done. That's why Rob had done 6. That's why they showed that piece.
Okay, so only one team and John were able
Yeah,
to choose
yeah,
their
only one.
fate.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
So this was the beginning of the end for Steve and Anna Lee, because
right.
obviously we know had Anna Lee done the dancing thing, they would have been in it, but they were still in it and got lost on the way. This is the second time in the episode that they got lost, Calbert. Like what like how do you I mean this completely cost them, did it not?
I think it was the beginning of the downfall for them. Sure. Yeah, because they had to continue to stop and ask people. And that's we talk about this all the time with this show. Like if you have to ask for directions, you're in trouble.
Well,
So
that's also why at earlier at the beginning of the episode they got lost, and
yeah,
Anna Lee said, "We're going to follow Greg and John because we don't want to stop and wait for directions. It might be a dirty move, but we're going to do it anyway."
right, right,
Which I totally agree with. But they had seemed to struggle with direction, right?
correct. Yeah, yeah, and
Had they not, they'll be in the race. Just
possible.
my opinion.
Yeah,
Just my
yeah,
opinion.
and I think if
Um,
I agree. I think if Steve doesn't do the river dance,
mhm.
Annalie does that. Annalie probably
Ah,
knocks it like the 4th try.
easily,
Yeah,
easily. But all right, so basically they had to perform a hurling drill, which involved completing and catching a pass, and then scoring a point in order to receive their next clue. So I don't think that's entirely true. I'm reading the write up. They had to hit it with the stick or the bat, whatever you want to call it. Um,
yeah, basically
it
like a home run.
well, that was at the end, but I think first they
Yeah,
had to hit it to their partner or whoever their instructor was, and then they had to
yeah,
balance it on their bat.
that's true. Correct. Yeah,
Yeah, and then they had to hit the home run or whatever you want to call it
right.
at the end. So yet again, Greg and John killed it. I don't know which one it was, but Greg or John, I think did it on the first try,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Did it on the first try, but Corey, my names are off this episode. Can't
yeah.
remember anyone's name.
It took Corey another try because he had to go a little quicker, just like
I think I think it took him like 4 tries, didn't it?
yeah, just like it did with Joel. I believe Joel did this one. Joel had to be told to go a little quicker too because they give the hurry up motion. So yeah, I thought it was interesting because I was like, oh, okay, so it's not like kicking a field goal. Like you had to actually like it looked like it wasn't just like going through the uprights. It was like it had to hit the net too.
So they had to put it through a goalpost, though.
Basically, yeah. Which is why they had that little tracker thing for the ball, right?
But it was kind of hard to track that thing.
Yeah.
Like I know they were lighting it up green, but it was still kind of hard to track. Like I at first I couldn't tell. Like, did it have to go in the net? Like there was a soccer net there. Like what was that there for?
Right. Right.
I could. Bizarre. Listen, I've played a lot of sports.
Yep.
Honestly, tell you, I've never.
Goldberg, you there?
Hear me?
Oop. I can hear you just barely. Try that again.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Could you repeat what you said?
Yeah, I don't know why that happened. Okay, so no, I was gonna say I've played a lot of sports in my lifetime. I've never heard of hurling. I've literally never heard of the sport.
Never heard of it. Yeah.
I thought maybe they were gonna do like curling or something like that. I've never heard of hurling before.
Right. Right.
And we're missing the host that that it was named after.
Yes. Fitting, isn't it? His team gets eliminated last week, and now he doesn't want to do the show.
All of a sudden, he's got movies to watch. He's he's babysitting. Right. Who knows what this guy's doing?
Right.
But yeah, his whole season fell apart. You know, we got to give you credit, Calbert. Like your team, Calbert. Let me tell you something. I listened episode of the season, our preview episode. Mm-hmm. I wanted to recall who we all picked.
Yep.
I wanted to remember who we all picked to win. Do you know? Not feel so bad. Both picked Alexandra and Sheridan. And Hurls had them second.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hurls had them second. I mean, we were all high on that team.
Yep.
It is one of the wow, that is just incredible that we were that wrong on them looks wise. Incredible. Right. Okay, so it seemed like everybody pretty much breezed through this roadblock. I don't know if Steve kind of got the free pass edit because they were so far behind. Do you think he did?
I think so. So because of how it finished at the end. I think he did.
Right, because you it's a dead giveaway. We'll get to it.
Right.
We'll get to it in a few minutes. Okay, so any other thoughts on this hurling drill?
Other than it looked simple, but it probably wasn't. Like I would probably have been up there probably 4 or 5 times, probably just trying to figure most of it because it looked like it was. You had to get it up. Like it wasn't a cheapie. You know, you're not hitting a home run out of Yankee Stadium.
Right.
You know.
No, I think I think it would have taken me 4 or 5 tries, but not to do the first 2 portions.
Yeah.
To do the home run ball, like you said, that was the toughest.
Right.
I think that would have taken me 4 or 5 tries probably to hit it between the uprights. I would have liked to see. Man, I would like to see them do something like a field goal kick one day, something like that. Because how long would they be there for that? I mean,
right.
So, all right. So after the second roadblock, teams had to drive to Toner's Pub, and both teams had to memorize and then recite a passage from James Joyce's Ulysses in order to receive their next clue, which directed them to travel on foot to the pit stop. All right.
Which ended up being St. Patrick's Cathedral.
The cathedral, right? Would you? One was obviously harder than the other.
Yeah, I would have. I probably would have done the second one.
One of them made absolutely no sense.
None.
First, wait, before I forget. What a tough crowd in the bar.
Yeah, you got to get it right. Though.
If you got it wrong, they were booing you.
Yeah, rightfully so. Like, because that's the thing. Like, it's right out there. It wasn't like they had to go terribly far. The words are right out there for them. So like, that would. I'm pretty good with memorization, but that first one was just like, whereas, nor,
Yeah.
less,
Did you?
right?
Wait, was that the one with the giant, the witch, the wardrobe,
And yeah, and the line, yes.
the lion, the witch, and the
Right,
wardrobe?
right. Yeah, yeah,
Um, there was like a bald guy in the crowd.
yeah.
This guy, this critic, man, they were showing every time like they were reading the cite it, and
Yep.
then they would show that bald guy in the crowd, and he was like, "Get this right, you." I He
Right,
was so he was so
right, right.
judgmental. Him and his like there was like three women with him. Oh man, they were. I love the booing thing. Put more
I
pressure
was
on him.
I was surprised out of the entire leg of this, because Rob signed the entire thing. So
Right.
did they have an interpreter there for him to
So
let them
I
go?
was thinking the same thing. That's a great point because I was thinking the same thing. Could Rob have said anything and they would have been like, "Yeah, that's true." But then I realized Calbert, he does mouth the words.
That is true. That's true. Good point.
He can still
Good point.
talk,
True.
and he said every word really. So
True.
he didn't even really have to sign it.
True.
He didn't really have to. It wasn't necessary, even though he did it anyway. But it really wasn't necessary because he really was talking the whole time. Because that was exactly my first thought. I was like, how is this guy going to do recite something when he doesn't talk? But
Right.
he did.
Well, and I thought it was also interesting too that, like, because I believe, if I remember correctly, Greg and John did not say James Joyce Ulysses, but
Right. Good
the other two teams
point.
did. So
Good point.
I was like, well, is that going to count? Because I
Wait,
mean,
was
I
it?
know
Wait a minute. Wait, who was it? Greg and John, or was it? No, was it Corey and Rob that didn't recite, that didn't say Ulysses, right? Or no?
I thought it was Greg and John. I'd have to go back
You
and look.
may you may be right. You may be
Not,
right.
so I mean, I knew who James Joyce was. I didn't know if he
Right.
had the Ulysses part to it.
I thought he was an umpire in baseball. And
That's what I thought.
He ruined a
That's what I
perfect game.
thought.
He
But
ruined Galarraga's perfect game on Mother's Day.
true, yes,
But
he did. True. But to everybody's point, like, outside of Greg and John messing up, and it was just like, it was two words, and I believe it was like,
yeah,
I think they said like whereas as opposed to there. It was something small, but it's
hmm
still technically wrong.
no, they got booed out of there. Yeah.
Yeah, and they got booed, but they got right back in, and they were
hmm
like, okay, let's fix that. And so,
I wonder how long this really took though, because the edit made it seem like they got it in a breeze. But if you're memorizing something like that, I'm sure to think that I'm going to stand outside. All right, let's not gloss over Garrett and Joel.
yeah,
Um, was it Garrett? Is it Garrett the one with the longer beard?
yes, Garrett's the one with the longer beard. Yep.
Okay, is Garrett clueless, or did he think he could talk out loud while his partner's also trying to memorize something?
Did you? I noticed that part too. Like, talk quieter.
He said, "Talk quieter." I mean, come on, man. What do you? When he was saying it, I was before Joel even said "talk quieter." I'm thinking to myself, "Is this guy serious? How is Joel going to be able to focus when
Well,
Garrett's reading his out
even
loud?"
even when they gave it, Joel like turned, had his ears like closed. He put his hands over his ears, and then like he did it. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done it that way, but I totally get it. Like, if it's me and you, and we're standing there, like, yeah, hell yeah, we're silently reading to each other. Like, we're in 5th grade. It's 20 minutes. Let's go.
Yeah,
You know, or a half hour.
totally. Oh
But
my
you're
god.
right. Like, this
Yeah.
was this. I think Greg and John said that too. I don't remember which one, but they were like, I think John looked at his and he was like, "This makes no sense. There's a bunch of run-ons here."
Yeah. Yeah. Because also I don't remember which team it was, but one of the teams got there and said, "Oh, they're both the same. Just pick one." And I'm thinking to myself, because it wasn't the first team that got there. I'm like, no, they are not both the same.
Right.
One was way harder than the other one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember which team said that, but okay. So, all right. So basically, I mean, it seemed edit wise, Calvert, you can hear me okay?
Yep. Good.
Yeah, edit wise, it did seem like everyone breezed through it, but obviously, on the St. Patrick's Cathedral, we can see that maybe it wasn't as they tried to make it out to be because, all right, let's start with the fact that Rob and Corey were team number one.
Correct.
What were your thoughts on their performance this episode?
Really, really good.
Overall.
Really, really good. I thought that, I don't know. My original thought was out loud to myself was, why did it take the second to the last leg to motivate yourself to try and finish first? It's been there for you the entire time. But they're right back on track. Like, they kind of stumbled a little bit last week, but they're right back on track.
So was this their first place finish?
That's a good question.
The way they reacted, it seemed like it
Yeah.
was.
Yes, it was. Yes.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
A great episode. And I want to know what's under that hat that Rob wears. Because he never takes it off.
Besides his hair? No,
What'd you say?
Besides his hair? Besides the hair?
I don't. I mean, it could be hair, or he could just have hair on the sides. I mean, we don't know.
True.
True. That is. The guy has worn the same hat the entire season.
Yes, this was their first place finish. They've had 3 second place finishes, so this was their first. Hence why they were so excited.
Really well done. However, celebrating, and I think it was Rob who said we just wanted 1 first place finish. Buddy, you're about to go into the final, like 2 first place finishes.
Yeah. You don't get in it.
Might not be good enough.
Right. You don't get a whole lot for finishing second or third here, other than cool, you're back in the United States.
Exactly. Eric and John were second, probably not too far behind.
Yep, back-to-back second place finishes for them. They didn't seem they seem to be okay with finishing second this week.
So that's what I wanted to ask you. I love their line of saying we finished first 4 times? I think 4 throughout the season, and we're gonna do it one more time. And that was a great line. And what were your thoughts on them overall this episode?
Really good. I mean, outside of the fact of trying to remember things, which is going to be interesting to see what happens tomorrow, because as we know with the puzzle, you got to remember where you were and what you did. So, do they struggle there? It's going to be interesting to see what happens with them. But yeah, fine. I mean, they haven't beaten themselves yet, so they're in good shape.
Yeah. Okay. So then third, Joel and Garrett. I mean, I guess we can talk about now. Obviously, it probably wasn't as close as they tried to make it seem.
No. And I think Annalie and Steve kind of knew that too.
Yeah, Annalie is not the type who can fake close or not. I mean, she knew they were going to be eliminated.
Right.
Yeah, because I was waiting once Joel and Garrett got there. I was waiting. I literally thought Steve and Annalie were going to run up while Joel and Garrett were on the finish line.
I mean, it's possible. We do know that Joel and Garrett do have some navigational issues as well. Mostly when they're not in a car. It's like trying to find the clue usually. But yeah, it was possible. It was possible.
Well, first and foremost, what are your thoughts on Joel and Garrett this episode?
I was surprised because I said last week that they got lucky by finishing first, and I think they got. I mean, they just. I would say that all 6 people, all 3 teams, deserve to be there. they earned it. They're really good at memorizing, much better than I thought. I thought they did fine. So once again, we can add it to the list of the 365,000 reasons as to why I'm wrong when watching the show. I thought they'd get eliminated, but they didn't. So, but hats off to them. Now it's can you do it again? Can you finish first? So we'll see.
Right. Yeah, but I guess, like, all right, so obviously they're my team, but to me, this was not an impressive episode for Joel and Garrett. Throughout the entire episode, obviously starting with the dance routine. I mean,
Yeah.
they struggled throughout the entire episode. There was nothing impressive about them. All right, so let's talk about Steve and Anna Lee real quick before the final three, and next week you can tell us where we're going.
Sure.
Steve and Anna Lee, oh my gosh, Calbert. To me, they stole the season. I think they were the stars of the season, and both of them. It wasn't just Anna Lee. Steve do a good job. Like, I give this man credit because I have so many thoughts about this team. Let me just say one thing, and then you can give your thoughts.
Go ahead.
If Anna Lee was offered Steve a dead body, she'd win this race. I think she'd really think about doing it.
I honestly thought that this is not a sexist comment in any way, shape, or form. If they would have went back to Steve driving, that might have changed things. I mean, that because Anna Lee did the driving, remember? So Steve had to get out and ask.
No, Steve was driving.
Yeah, Steve was driving, but had Steve done more of the driving overall, I think that would have changed their fortune. We don't know. I mean, that's why I can't. It still boggles my mind to have them both go out there and swim in the Irish Sea. Why? It's just one person going to get the clue. It didn't say you both had to go out there and swim, to the best of my knowledge. So if Steve, which clearly Steve struggles with swimming, so if he struggles with swimming and like you wore flip-flops to try and swim on rocks, which is not necessarily the smartest thing, and then had to use them as basically a flotation device, swimming backwards.
Right.
I don't know, but you're right. I agree with you that they were the team of the season this year. Not just because one guy sounds like Billmauer, but they were funny and like they clearly cared. They clearly will hold on to grudges.
Right.
Yeah, they're a good team. They're a good team. I if they would have made if the roles were reversed and Stephen and Lee would have made it, I'd have been fine with that. And Joel and Garrett would have got eliminated. I would have been fine with that. But hey,
right.
They got there and the directions did them in. That's the thing that I think that's the other thing too. Like you got to trust the people that live there. Like if they're telling you that this is where the thing is, that's where it is.
Right.
Like, okay, look at which that's what everybody did, right? Everybody looks at the Google map and goes, okay, like how do I get there? And that's when the person starts to point and go, okay, you turn right, turn left, turn right, turn left, and it's straight ahead. Had they done that, maybe the race to the mat is closer. And if Anna Lee does the rubber dance, I think that changes everything. Because Steve can Texas two-step, but that's not Texas two-step can only get you so far out there, especially rubber dancing. That's a big thing.
So I mean, we all know I picked Joel and Garrett thanks to you, episode 1. But I would have loved to see Steve and Anna Lee run the final, man. I think they were great television.
I think. Oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I think it's going to be interesting to see if we're right with our power rankings, which I'm not going to tell them yet. But I mean, it's not. We're not letting the cat completely out of the bag by, having a major shocker here. Is it going to be close? Is the race to the mat going to be close tomorrow night? Because thus far, it really hasn't been. There's been there's been one episode this season so far where it's been like legitimately close.
Right.
2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds makes all the difference. So we'll see. I mean, it's gonna. But you're right. You're right. I think. I think having to go where they have to go tomorrow, which we know they're going back to the United States. I'll tell you what city in a second. But sure, I don't know if Joel and Garrett can complete this for what they have to do, at least for what looks to be like one of the challenges. So I don't know if Stephen and Lee would have had success either, but we'll see. We'll never know for Stephen and Lee. Good race. I mean, like I got that. I think that's the overall arching thing for this season so far. Outside of the fact that the teams that I didn't really like, which were gone, and they were gone fairly quickly, there's not like I'm not going to be mad if Joel and Garrett win. Or I'm not going to be mad if Rob and Corey win, right?
Right.
So I wouldn't have been mad even if Stephen and Lee would have won. Like that's the thing. There wasn't like that one team that was like, oh my God, they're so. I mean, there were a couple, but we knew that they weren't going to win anyway, so it really didn't matter. It was just more annoying than anything else. So
right. All right. Before we give our thoughts on the final three and our power rankings, and we'll give Hurls his power rankings. He's missing this episode because he's hurling tonight.
Good luck hitting.
Let's let everyone know what's going on next week, Calbert.
So next week, we know that they're going back to the United States. Which city are they going to finish it off in? And it's a dead giveaway with the title that I'm going to give you. A Sunset, Seattle, Scramble. The final three teams travel to Seattle, where they must complete 3 challenges in a scramble leg. The team that successfully completes the challenges and arrives first wins the $1 million prize, which is just like every other season. So we know that there's going to be a puzzle at some point. We know that there's going to be a roadblock at some point also. So we know, or I can at least tell you from the preview, they have to do some type of scaling of, or what looks like they're on or near the Space Needle, with some ropes and stuff. So I don't know if they have to traverse to it to get something or whatnot, but that's going off the preview. Looks like they're melting some stuff because they're in Seattle. So
yeah,
right.
Yeah, it does say on the preview that I'm reading here the three tasks. One involves a Space Needle, one involves a scramble, and then one involves glass blowing.
Okay,
so
yeah,
that's probably
which would make sense because they're in Seattle, so that's grunge and whatnot. So,
but so you would think the scramble would be the one where they'd have to remember everything from the entire season.
Yeah, usually if it's a scramble, usually if it's that tends to be where they have to remember things. And
so that's the only reason. I guess we can discuss now real quick before we give our power rankings. That's the only reason why I'm giving Joel and Garrett a shot is because they've been the only team, right, that was shown that they were taking notes, if I remember correctly, right? Because they forgot their notebook at one point and had to go back and get it. So they haven't really made it a point to show that anyone else was taking notes the entire season. Have they?
True. I don't exactly know. That's the thing too. I don't know if that will help them or not.
But well, that's the only. I mean, because Corey. All right. I want to say Corey and Rob.
Mm-hmm.
Rob can slow him down at some point, but he really hasn't the entire season. Like he has not. He's almost like he's performing like a young guy. He's not performing like somebody's father.
Right.
Like Steve was. So that his age is not a factor to me. He's performed really well. And Greg and John have performed just really unbelievably the last 6 or 7 legs. So like I think Joel and Garrett are a clear third place odds wise right now. What do you think?
I would agree. I'd agree.
Yeah.
I really don't think it. I mean, it's not. I think the gap is smaller than it was probably even last week, but it's still I would still say it's considerable. It's still a distance. Rob and Corey would have to screw up, which is possible for Joel and Garrett, I think, to overtake them. But I don't. I mean, with the memory of I mean, let's go back to the very first episode, right? Who figured out that it was angels, right? Or Angel, I'm sorry, for when they were in Los Angeles. Rob did, right? And Rob just did it by hand. Figured it out, went Angel. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
City of Angels, right?
Right.
So memory seems to be pretty good for him. I don't know if I could say that for John Garrett, but you're right. That's where the notes could come in handy. And Greg and John being so young, maybe they don't necessarily remember the order. So
Right.
that'll be interesting.
All right. Before we get to our power rankings, what do you give this episode? I mean, I know we both mentioned this was our favorite episode of the season. So what do you give it?
It's a 10.
Yeah.
It's a 10 not only just for the city alone of Dublin, but those instructors were they should apply for sainthood.
Mm-hmm.
They're
I agree.
They're fantastic.
So for me, it's a 9.5 only because like give it a 10. We're saying there could be nothing better. So
yeah,
we don't know in the future. Maybe there could be something better. So I'm gonna give it a 9.5. But this was so well done. The only thing this episode was missing was a race to the finish line because we had a clear top three at the end of the day, even though they tried to edit Stephen and Lee catching up. But man, I'm gonna miss Stephen and Lee. I really am gonna miss him. They carried these last few episodes.
They did. They really did. They really did.
I mean, we were debating whether Steve was going to die a few times. I mean, it was really they did a great job as a team, and I think Anna Lee has a future on reality television. Just saying.
I wonder though, to your previous point, if she had a younger partner, I don't know necessarily if like let's say she had Greg or John on her team, because she's 28 and they're 26.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they'd be. I don't know if they'd put up with her. I'll be polite and say nagging. She's trying to be positive and saying that he can do it, but like I don't know. I maybe it's just because I'm old now, but it would be an interesting test. I think that I think you're right. I think that it had the team member been a little bit younger, that probably would help. But like that's your dad. Like you only get one. So
yeah, if she ran the race with her her husband,
yeah,
instead of her father, she'd probably be. She's cutthroat. That's why I think she has a future on reality television, because there's other shows like The Challenge, the show I like The Challenge, that she can be put on because, and I think Corey is also in the same boat. I think he's going to be on maybe on The Challenge or something in the future.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. So that was my final thoughts on Annalie and Steve. Sorry to see them go. But let's give our power rankings. Here, I guess we can let Hurl start since he's not here. We know his third is Joel and Garrett. Mine is as well, even though I picked them to win. I'm glad they're in the final three. But I think they're the third best team left easily. What do you say?
I think it's Joel and Garrett. I think Joel and Garrett are three also. I mean, I don't think they don't seem to be the team that's like they're happy to be here, but I think they're starting to realize that like a little bit of luck's gonna have to fall their way for them to win the entire thing. And I just kind of like 2 weeks ago, where they just by happenstance happened to take the subway and finish first, while Stephen and Lee, Greg and John, and Rob and Corey were trying to find out where they had to go to get to the subway. Right. They thought they could walk to run to the.
But that's actually a great point, because travel has benefited this season.
Mhm. Yeah,
They remember they caught that flight earlier in the season.
true.
So
Yep,
you never know. Maybe it's a travel thing, but we'll see. But as of right now, I think they're easy to say they're in third
yep.
out of the final three. All right. So second, I think Hurls. What did Hurl say? He had Robin Corey second.
Yep, Robin Corey second. Yep, yep.
Okay. Okay. So he has Robin Corey second. Oof. Are we gonna assume start this last leg round? Is that an
I would
assumption or
assume.
no?
I would assume so. I would assume so.
Hmm. So are we doing these power rankings based on the fact that they're going to be on even ground or how they finished up until this point? Because for me, that makes a difference.
Well, what they tend to do is it's where you finished, right? So even if it's only on granted, it's only really 5 minutes usually. Um,
Well, all right. Okay. So our power rankings are based up until this point, not. So I guess, right? Like,
yeah, correct, correct.
so I'm
So
going to go Greg. I'm going to go Greg and John.
okay, okay. I'll take Robin Corey too. Um, they could win it, but this is where I think maybe Rob's age catches up with him, even though he is by no means out of shape. He's not tired. That dude has energy, it looks like, for days. And I could definitely see them winning it because it would make sense given what happened last week. Like when they set their mind to something, they pretty much crush it. Having said that, if Corey has to do the challenge, how many times is it going to take him to do it? So like we know the scramble's coming up with the puzzle. So they're probably not going to get it on the first crack because very rarely do teams get it on the first crack. It's usually something that's out of order. It's usually right at the beginning. But I think Robin Corey are too. So
Okay. Fair enough. All right. So one Hurls has Greg and John. Um, I have Robin Corey, and I'm only picking Robin Corey at this point because they did finish first. So I'm kind of going with a little recency bias.
sure.
Fact that they are in first going into the final leg. You have Greg and John.
I have Greg and John at one. I just think it's because they're used. I think in the event of a sprint, this is where the step challenge of them getting the pass earlier may make the difference. Like obviously, Greg and John aren't going to pass this up. Obviously, they can't, right? So, uh, in the event of a race to the mat, younger, faster.
Okay, that's a great point because if it was a race to the mat, order that that you just picked it, Greg and John would win,
Yeah,
finish second, and Joel and Garrett would be third.
right.
If there was a sprint to the mat. However, how many times has it come down to a sprint to the mat for first place?
In recent seasons, not very often.
Not often.
Yeah.
So for me, okay, we gave our power rankings, but I do want to put the caveat in that I think any of these three teams, if any of them won, would you be shocked? Because
No,
I wouldn't even be surprised if Joel and Garrett won at this
no,
point.
no. Not with the way the last couple weeks have gone. And
Right.
then
A lucky leg, they get the scramble, like a quick. It's everything can turn in an instant, especially if you're right and everybody's starting on even ground.
right, right.
Okay. I do have a question for you before we wrap this up.
Sure.
Love to give a question. So put aside that I picked Joel and Garrett.
Mhm.
There's three teams left. Who genuinely do you want to win this race as a fan? We've watched every episode. Gotta
Uh,
have a horse. You gotta have someone you're actually pulling for to win.
yeah.
But
As a fan, It's Rob and Corey, just as a fan. The story's better, right?
So if Rob could hear, would you still pick them?
Yeah, I would still pick them. Okay. It's father son.
Fair enough.
It's family, right? Not to say I got nothing against brothers. I don't have one, but you know, I think you're right. I think that it would mean more to them. Not to say that it wouldn't mean more to Greg and John, but it would mean more to Rob and Corey, right? Greg and John absolutely went 1,000% would deserve it. They would earn it. It would totally make sense if this was a Hollywood script. It would totally make sense. Greg and John have pretty much dominated this entire season, so it would totally make sense for them to win. But that's what the finale's for. It's usually something minor, something small. Usually, let's go back to last season. It's something minor, something small that can cost you. So it's not stepping on the key at the right time for the piano. I mean, it's not remembering the order of the drum set from the season prior. Or even building the drum set correct, right? So it's usually something minor, something small, but that's all it takes. Now, I mean, we've seen that when Greg and John drive themselves, it's fine. If Greg and John have to take an Uber or a taxi, we'll see. Because sometimes, even though I just praised citizens of their city knowing their city better than the contestants, that's not always true. There have been times where cab drivers have been either too slow or just flat out taking them to the wrong spot. So, and it doesn't matter how much yelling of like, we're actually racing for $1 million now, we need you to kind of move your ass. It doesn't usually matter. So I think it's interesting that it finishes in Seattle. That's our interesting city for it to finish in. They don't tend to do that usually. It tends to finish where it usually starts, which is usually in LA. There was a couple seasons where it did it in. It's ended in Santa Clara at the Niner Stadium. It's ended at Cowboys Stadium in Arlington. It's ended in Chicago at the Bean. I mean, it's interesting that Seattle got the nod this time for me. So,
okay, one more quick question before we wrap up. I thought when they had to go to the bar, recite the lines.
Yeah.
I actually thought this was the checkpoint. I thought this was the pit stop.
Mm-hmm.
Did you or no? At any point, I thought that was about to be the pit stop.
I thought, because I misinterpreted I was like, why are there two poems out there? So I thought that one person had to go in at a time, right?
But you didn't think this was a pit stop at any point?
No.
So that leads to my actual question. Has there ever been an indoor pit stop? Like, he's always outside, Phil. Like, and I thought the bar was the pit stop, and I was thinking to myself, it can't be, because I don't recall ever seeing him do a pit stop inside somewhere.
Yeah, it doesn't generally end inside. There are a couple. I'm thinking back to season 30, where there was like one pit stop that was inside of a church, but otherwise it's not. It's generally done outside. For two reasons. One, because usually weather isn't a factor. That's why they generally do it outside. And two, especially for this particular leg, you want to be there with all the other teams, and so trying to fit everybody inside. They did have. I'm trying to think of for the Chicago season, if I remember correctly. It involved a pizza, and they had, like, it was inside, so they had to go inside and do what they needed to do. and it did eventually finish outside. But that was the one season where I thought, hey, this might actually end inside. It generally doesn't end inside, unless you consider the when they finished in New Orleans inside the stadium. That's technically inside. So.
Well, I don't mean the finish, but I mean
Yeah.
like a pit stop prior to the finish.
Yeah, not generally. Generally, it's done. Usually.
Yeah.
But you're. I mean, you weren't wrong. Like, it would totally have made sense for it to end right there. I just thought it was interesting that they both had to recite one, because I was like, oh, okay, well, one goes, they recite their poem. The next person goes, they recite. He recites his poem, or she. I thought that was kind of interesting. So they both had to kind of stand there and do it. So.
Right. I guess it was a given that one of them finished and they weren't being booed, that they were good, that they were good to go for the next person. Yeah, to give it a shot. Okay. So any final thoughts on this episode or the finale? I mean,
I'm looking forward to the finale, because I flat out do not know who's going to win, and I think it's probably been at least 7 seasons since I don't know who's going to win. A legitimate argument could be made for, as we try to do, legitimate argument could be made for each team. I flat out don't know who's going to win.
Yeah,
that's going to be fun. That's going to be fun to see what happens.
Well, that's something also when I did my little re-listen this morning to our first episode, we mentioned the fact that we usually could pick looks wise who we thought was going to be in the top 3 and whatnot. And we happen to mention that we didn't know, like, it could be anyone, and going into the finale, it still could be anyone.
Right.
It's been a fun season. It really has. I was on the stand last week. Where do I stand now? Now that my team is in the final 3.
You're good to go. You're good to go.
You think I'm okay? You think I'm safe? I'm in the clear?
I think you're all right. After I've given it some consideration.
Okay.
Since I was judged for you last week, I think you're all right. You made a compelling argument.
Well, that and the fact that the prosecutor is not present on this show, so
that is true.
I think that sways in my direction a little bit.
That's true. And we don't have to, and I think that's the fun part too. We don't have to wait that long for season 36, because it starts in March. So
it does start in March.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So,
what if my team wins? Am I still off the hook? That's a discussion to be had for the finale.
We'll discuss that later. I mean, you're already going to get the last pick for the draft for season 36. So, assuming
I'll tell you
want to do it.
I am rooting for Joel and Garrett based on the service dog edit. That warmed my heart a little bit. I love dogs. I'm a big dog guy, and that's a nice story, right?
Sure.
So, I think I'm pulling for my own team here. So, all right. Calbert, maybe on hurls, the fact that he's not man enough to take this to appear on the show after his team got the boot.
Which he did give. We should probably mention that. I don't know if he did. I'd have to go back and listen again. He did give the episode for Ireland an 8.5. So he gave it the lowest out of all 3 of us, which would make sense.
Yes, because his team's not on it.
That's right. It's not hard to figure out. Should be fun though. Should be a good episode. It sounds like we will be doing, or at least attempting to do, a recording right after the episode tomorrow night. So we'll see how that goes. If we can't, then we'll see everybody next week.
Yes. Also, sign off. I don't know if you follow it. I don't think you do, but the Tar historian, the guy who does the rankings for the podcast, gave us our highest review last week. Highest of the season.
That's nice. Early Christmas. Appreciate it.
Yeah, there you go. for our review of episode. I think we reviewed. It was the episode where we reviewed 3 episodes. So
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I don't recall how long ago that was. Maybe a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's where he's up to, and he gave us a pretty high score. So shout out to him. Maybe give us a first place finish this week. We kind of earned it. Plus, I'm picking Joel and Garrett. They're still in it. Like nobody else is doing that. Even Joel and Garrett didn't pick Joel and Garrett.
It's true.
All right, Calbert. It was fun. Me and you riding solo. I think we got through it. Did a good job. What do you think?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
So until next week, amazing reviews. We got 1 episode left. See you next week.
Have a good night, everybody.
All right. So